So, hi, Theresia and Nguyen. So, I suppose Nguyen is not pronounced perfectly, right?
Good work.
Say it. Please say the last name. How it's pronounced perfectly?
Wayne.
Wayne?
Wayne.
Okay.
That's how you say it in Vietnamese.
Okay, Wayne. Okay. Then I was completely wrong. Sorry. And, okay. So, what was your first computer?
Gosh, the first computer I remember fiddling around with was an Apple IIe. With the blue screen, yellow fonts.
Mm-hmm.
Our household did have was a 386 or 886 machine.
Okay.
And I remember that taking about 3 hours to install the OS and many more days to get all the other applications up and running. And it was a huge box that took up the entire dining room table.
Okay. What you did with it?
That was my dad's cousin's computer at that time, and he was trying to set it up to run a business. So that was his part. The Apple IIe, my brother was doing computer science at that time, so that was his machine that he worked on. And I, of course, when it's not being used, took it to either play games or to do my homework.
Okay.
So I was younger at that time when that came out.
Yeah, I guess so. So, what games you liked back then?
Wow. What games I like and I still play is probably Minesweep.
Okay.
I don't know why. Minesweep's good. Solitaire came in a few times here and there. And I don't know if this is strictly PC or just games in general, but, Tetris has always been a classic for me.
Okay. So you're not an avid gamer. It's just casual gaming, right?
Yeah, I did get into gaming a little bit with my brother, and ended up staying up until 4 or 5 in the morning, and got into trouble many times, and not having adequate sleep. So it wasn't really good for me to get into games as much as they did.
So you played Minesweeper at the all night?
No, that was more my personal time. But I played with them on like the Atari machine or Nintendo.
Okay,
that's what I grew up in.
Okay, which games you preferred on Nintendo or Atari? So what was your favorite game?
Gosh, yeah, you know what? I just got the Atari, the new one that just came out.
Atari?
And it was like a flashback version.
Okay.
So I was playing Froggers and a couple of other games on there, but Froggers the one I remember playing the most. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, great, this is like my, so nostalgic, great gaming. I plugged into my 4K TV. Mm-hmm. I just have big, blocky 4K bits of game pieces. It wasn't any crisp.
So, like, I suppose the 1 pixel is like 1 square centimeter, right?
Yeah. So it's just giant pixels that I saw. I'm like, didn't think of this when I bought the game.
Okay. So, and how you started to do something more creative or serious with the computer? So I don't know, your first, bash script or whatever, just, except gaming.
Well, I took a program class in high school, doing that was Pascal. Mm-hmm. If anybody still remember that is. Yeah. Programming calculators and small things for homework assignments.
Yeah, I actually started with, I think the first one is, of course, BASIC, because my machine shipped with BASIC, but the next one was Turbo Pascal, actually.
Okay. Yeah, so I took that, and then, into college, I expanded to a little something else and start building websites and fiddling around with all that. Didn't do anything too seriously. I was more into learning about how the brain works, so kind of deviated and start studying neurobiology and looking at psychological developments and education, and basically how people behave and become who they are.
Interesting. It's even more interesting than computers. So, as you started, with the computers, as you got the programming classes at school, were you excited about programming, or was it just, just another lesson, or was it something special for you?
Good question. It taught me a lot in terms of, what it takes to get things to run on a software level. It also taught me that I don't want to be sitting behind a keyboard 24/7 like my brother who locks himself in the room day and night. That's why I went to the neuroscience part, because then I want to learn about what makes people tick. Helps me understand what makes developers tick, and their focus and their concentration is part of their success. To some degree, there's a level of OCD and competition that is in a developer's mindset that helps them become a successful developer. So I took it from that perspective. I understand what it takes to get things done, but I don't want to be a part of that building block. I want to be a part of the bigger orchestration part, helping developers become successful in what they build and building it into a broader picture in terms of, having features is not enough. You need to have a product or a solution that people want. And I think sometimes developers get kind of in the mindset, I need to get something running, but they don't understand the user experience around it.
That's interesting. So you learned programming at school, and you observe your brother, and say, okay, this is not what I would like to become. and then you started neuroscience, right?
Yes.
That's incredible. So if you could summarize that, so what you actually learned, just brief. So what was the most surprising thing you learned? Maybe put it this way.
With respect to people or computers?
Let's start with people. So I would say people, neuroscience, people, developers, somehow computer related. So you said you studied the behavioral part of humans. So what was the most surprising thing you learned during your study?
Well, there's always that nature versus nurture thing, and how people become who they are, what they learn, what they're born with innately. Some people foster that type of, if they have supporting parents and a nurturing environment, they can become very successful. There are people who maybe lack the resources and they don't necessarily see themselves achieving more, and they get stuck in that mindset. Mm-hmm. The environmental factor really attributes to a person's behavior, their psychological well-being, and their ambition and motivation to do what to do with their lives. Because I've seen a lot of smart people who don't apply themselves for various reasons. Then I see people who are probably not the best and the brightest, but they work hard at something and they get it done. And maybe it takes a longer bit of time, but they actually accomplish something. And that has to do, that's the nature part of it. You have the intelligence or you don't. You have the aptitudes or you don't. And then the nurture, it takes you the next step further, where you want to actually do something with that. And it feeds into family life, the culture, the environment, the exposure that children have to some of these factors. Going through college, I volunteered a lot to teach kids to reach out to children with underrepresented minority groups, to help them get into computer science, especially girls, because a lot of these girls I end up talking to, they don't think they can do much with their lives because their parents taught them that they're supposed to go to college and find a husband, or their brain is not meant to do computers or science or math. And you have to work around this stuff. And you can see now there's a huge change in women in technologies because people are embracing and understanding and sharing and helping each other grow. That wasn't around 20, 30 years ago. Girls were marginalized. So I learned, I guess the short answer to your question is our cognitive ability, the way we do things, are highly impacted by our environment, people around us, and programs that are in place to help us achieve more.
I have also my own little theory. So what can also happen if you grow up in a perfect environment and your parents are really supportive, it could become boring, So there's not that exciting anymore, and you just learn a little bit and then you just give up. But if you get us some kind of support, but it's not like your parents push you to do something with computers or programming, then it could be more exciting, because I don't know how to. I know I'm not a neuroscientist, but my observation is that it is really hard to control children, right? Because they would like to have their own mind. So it is a little bit tricky, to be over supportive. And of course, and the other thing is, you mentioned girls. what I never understood, because computers could be the perfect thing, for girls, because it's creative. It is very creative. It is, clean. There is no difference between, if you just, look at the machine. It is, whether it is man or woman, doesn't matter. Everyone can use, computer in the same way, basically. So you have, the same keyboard and the same mouse. So it could be actually the perfect tool, to have fun with it, right? So if you just, and this is, unfortunately, somehow it didn't work out, right? So
what you're saying makes perfect sense and is very objective if you take out all the environmental factors I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So if the girl, say, have money and time, sure, she can teach herself and learn how to do something. But if you're growing up in an environment where you're basically tasked to serve more the family routine things, and maybe you don't have an opportunity to go to college, or if you go to college, you're not encouraged to take the math, science, and the computer science classes, then you don't get the appropriate training to be a classical, developer from an education perspective.
Yeah, this is what I get. Yeah, but which is unfortunate. Yeah. So the environment is the problem, but computer could become, the perfect, job for everyone. So this is what I wanted to say, because, it's not like you have to work all the time with a drill or with a hammer or whatever. It is like, a clean thing which you can just use. And if you're creative and smart, or you have the attitude to work hard, you could achieve something and have lots of fun. So this is what I wanted to express. Of course, the environment push you in different directions. So you have to really work harder as a girl to achieve the same. But this is what is unfortunate. But I didn't know that you actually studied neuroscience, which is amazing. I'm probably even a special character, because I got a computer and I really liked the machine and I wanted to do something with it. But I had no idea what to do, So it's like, what you can do with it? And I say, okay, I really like the machine, but playing is a little bit boring. So, and I wanted to program, but I couldn't. So, I started to read my programming book, but it was in French, and I don't understand French. So I tried to to understand what's going on. I tried to write code in comments. So I would say I was not really smart back then, but I was somehow fascinated with the machine. So it was not like I just liked. I don't know why. The same happened with Java. So as the Java occurred, I just liked Java without knowing why. I was like, still, I just enjoy Java. And if you ask me why, it's not like I say it's a perfect syntax or whatever. It just the entire environment, sun, the logo, the coffee, everything, just really appealed to me back then. And the same was with computers. I liked the machine. And back then, computers was the only thing which couldn't become boring. If you know, back then we didn't have internet, nothing. So we get video recorders and maybe phones. There was no smartphones, and whatever you bought, it was not like it was. There was always a limit what you can do with it. It become always boring, because with video recorder, if you watch a movie once, it's enough. Maybe if I would play guitar or something, this would be more creative, but I couldn't. But computer was the only thing. Okay, you buy it. And then you have endless fun. You can do whatever, you can play games or you can program. So this is fascinating me. It was a complete different world, right? And right now it gets a little bit lost, because the computer becomes just utility, right? So it's like if you have a smartphone, it's just it's just a phone. There's nothing special anymore. I would say it is greater back then than 1 square centimeter pixel on an Atari, but it was still special back then because it was the first interactive thing, right? This is the thing. In TV, this was read only, and the computer was the first thing which you could also change something, and now it becomes normal. This is a little bit a problem, I would say, even.
Yeah, I remember when I was using the computer, I really liked it because I learned how to type on a keyboard. On a typewriter. And my small little fingers would get stuck in between the keys all the time.
Okay.
So when you switch over to the computer and you actually had a keyboard where there's no open space where your fingers just fall into, that was awesome.
Okay, cool.
And then, you had the dot matrix printers, and I was able to print out all my stuff on there. And it's just my first introduction to Windows Office, WordPerfect. I love that program. Yeah, most people probably don't know what WordPerfect is anymore. No,
I don't know whether. I think I started with Word. Because my first Windows was Windows 95, not 3.11, so it was 95. and I think it's shipped already with Word, as I remember. And because I started when I was ZX Spectrum, then 8086, but it was just DOS, and then I got the Windows 95 machine. So okay, really interesting stuff. So now, how you got to programming? So you studied neuroscience, and you enjoyed the study, or you regret that? So okay.
I enjoyed the study, and it really enlightened myself in terms of understanding what how people think drives, and it applies to daily life and as well as work. It helps you understand people's behavior and how to, especially when it comes to negotiation. Are you doing contracts negotiation? Are you doing sales? Are you doing marketing? Having the insight to how people perceive information, uptake information, and make decisions on information will help you craft a better message and build better programs.
So you're a dangerous person, right? So you can actually look through the people and say, okay, I know what you will say right now. So you try to analyze people?
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but it's fun, right? If you can do this, it's like Harry Potter.
Yeah,
skills.
It does help, but there's one part where you know what's going on, and the other part is your own personality.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'm a very frank, candid person up front. So even if I know something, you have to balance between intuition and no knowledge or studied knowledge.
Okay.
So there's a balance. I mean, cognitive science is it was a new thing when I went to college, but now I think it's a very known and popular subject for people to learn about and study.
Okay. And where you studied? So what college was it?
University of California, San Diego.
Oh.
UCSD.
Okay, USSD. Nice.
Yeah.
But, and you programmed? You learned to programming at the university as well, or?
I did, and then I realized I don't like programming all that much. Actually, I like the human aspect of it.
Okay. And
that's why I joined startups to work. I like the whole creativity part of the things.
Okay.
And I like technology, so I picked something that married the both together. And I wanted to have my own company one day, so I decided, hey, why take a chance on my own company? Let's join a startup and see what's going on there. So that's how I kind of got into the whole Java space. I joined a startup with Culture Technology. They had the Resin application server.
Oh.
And yes, I started this.
Resin application server. This was a great application server, Culture, right? This was the company, Culture. Okay. And the Resin application server, and I think one point of time even eBay used the Resin, right? It was like everywhere. It was very fast and very nice application server. Uh-huh.
Yes. So you're familiar. I think that's when I first met you at the Serverside conference. It was with Culture Technology. So they were struggling. They needed to take the Resin application server product and also Quarkus, which is their PHP to Java engine.
Yeah.
They wanted to take it to market, and they needed help. And I started up the sales and marketing department there and helped shape the company and brought visibility to the company. And really, this is the whole education part comes in, is understanding what the ecosystem's like, how to connect to people, what makes people tick, what interests people, and build that out. And also recruiting good developers to help build out the product and get the message out there.
This is, I think, where I also learned Riza Rahman. I think he also worked for Resin, right? For Culture.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, this is,
Yeah, and then Reza went over to Oracle afterwards, and then I left and went to help David Blevins with Tommy Tribe.
Okay. But you are not a developer, right, Teresa?
No, I'm not a developer. I know enough to get in trouble, but I'm more about driving the business, the ecosystem, and making sure that everything connects and works.
Okay, that's actually cool, because I met you at conferences several times, and I had no idea what role you are actually playing there. So I said, you are like, what I suspected, you are like a chief hacker, So you are the like the...
That's the Jedi between the
exactly. And that's cool. So you started with Culture. How is that pronounced, the company? Culture.
Culture Technology.
Culture Technology.
It's an Argentinian word.
Okay, and when you and when you started at Culture, when which year was it?
Around 2007 or 8.
Yeah, this is then it was the server side. Exactly, it was where we met. And then how long you spent at Culture Technologies?
About 4 or 5 years.
Okay, and then 2012, 13, you started at Tommy Tribe, right?
Yes. So David and I was put in touch, and he had this idea about starting a company with also an application server, and needed somebody to help with the business. So I joined him, and we 2-3 months later we launched a website, a product, a business model, and shared a booth with Jelastic at Java 1 and made our announcement as a new company in the application server space. And that's we. At that time, it was the Tommy application server, which is the Java EE certified version Tomcat, and we had a commercial support business behind that, also along with consulting and training, and also participating in open standards like JCP and with MicroProfile and Jakarta EE, what it is today. So part of that, having an open source product, getting the community to support it and drive it forward, and also having the dedicated commercial support for businesses to use the product and have peace of mind that there's a company standing behind the product.
And is for you Java, MicroProfile, and Jakarta something special, or you just don't care? It was just lucky accident that you started with Culture and Tommy Tribe.
No, it's not that I don't care. It is important because part of the whole neurobiology and cognitive science thing I was talking earlier is the people. It's what drives the people. And this is Java is a very vibrant community. Watching open standards come together where there's a crowd of people from different backgrounds, different levels, different, some are open source, some are commercial products. Some are VP level all the way down to just individual developers get together and push forward a technology standards and help grow it and make it better for everybody else in the world to use and consume. It's just very inspiring to see this type of behavior. And along the way, I've met a lot of great people and friends, such as yourself, that, I cherish this community and ecosystem very much.
As Oracle bought Sun at Java 1, I had a chat with DevRel. And they say, okay, you are the Java guys, one of these, and because they were the Oracle DevRels, and now they have to do something with Java, and they say, okay, no, what is it, and how the crowd behaves or whatever. And I told them, whatever you do, don't mess with the Duke. The Duke is a special thing for the Java people. And they say, yeah, they did something, and people became already angry. So it's funny to observe because the Java crowd is a little bit special because with Sun background. Now it is a little bit different because there's a lot of young developers, but I would say 5 to 10 years ago, the old crowd, they just knew Sun and they really liked Sun and liked, the Duke and everything Duke and Sun related. And then as Oracle took over, it was a completely different world. So this is why I ask you whether it's something special or not, because I think it's still something special. Also now in Microsoft, I don't know whether you knew actually Sun Microsystems? You observed the company or
I didn't work there, but my brother did work there.
Okay, very good. Because there were some problems with Microsoft and Sun, I would say 1997, I guess. Okay. Yeah, it was like something like this because with the J++ stuff. But so I also didn't like the behavior. But right now, for me, Microsoft is the new Sun, I would say. It looks like to me like the behavior is similar to Sun back then. So I would say it is a complete different world. Okay, so you started at Tommy Tribe, and you recognize, the MicroProfile in Jakarta E and JCP. I mean, the importance of the specs, or for you was like marketing material and irrelevant, or what was your or how to estimate, whether something like MicroProfile or Jakarta or JCP is important or not. So from marketing perspective.
It is important to the fact that you need there's proprietary software versus your open source commercial software, open source software, and then you have to standardize specs. And having that standardized spec really gives people the opportunity to not be to choose what they want to run as their foundation for their business applications. And I think that having that freedom of choice is good for developers and good for organizations. And these type of open standards organization makes it happen. Yeah, that's important.
From marketing perspective, because if you are not a developer and you said, you were interested in MicroProfile Jakarta and JCP, and my question was, how you evaluated or how you knew that you should, push the marketing towards MicroProfile Jakarta and JCP direction and not completely ignore it and just focus on whatever proprietary features of Tommy, right? You could, because there are, you could mark, if you are the marketing girl, you can do whatever you like, I suppose. If your David would say yes, then you could just,
I need to clarify. There's the marketing, there's a business aspect. So when you're marketing is more of the planning execution of something that's already part of the strategy. When it comes down to the business, does this something make sense? Like when you introduce a new specs that introduces modularity, breaking some of the dependencies, that affects our business model. Like if you're running an application server on premise, that new spec will then break that dependency. It affects how the new application server behaves. It affects how businesses with application server products will then continue to build and have the business demand for their products. So the when you're looking at these open standards, you need to look at the business behind it. How will it impact it? So that's how I gauge what's important and what's not, versus the marketing is more like, how do you get the message out there? What kind of message you put out there? Who's doing what? So that's more the execution vehicle. So the strategy part is what interests me more than the whole execution part.
But the strategy, this is interesting why I ask you, for me was completely different actually. So as I started with Java, back then Java became very popular at the backends, and my problem was there were too many application servers. So Resin came later, but they were like, we already had a conversation with David Blevins, but there were no Bluestone, Gemstone, I think even Typestone, Silverstream, and Tenga, and I don't know, Sunspot, Netscape application server. There was Netscape application server, there was the Sun application server, and everyone had an application server. I think there were more than 40 application servers, and they were completely different. So for me as consultant, it was impossible to understand more than two and be productive with it. And I knew that not all application server will survive. So I was I was actually helpless. And as Java E came out, or back then the name was J2E, or it started slowly. They announced the first spec, JMS, Java Message Specification. And I said, okay, then if I learn this, I will already understand IBM MQ Series and the others. But and then JNDI came out, Java Native and Java Naming and Directory Interface. And the thing with JNDI is I had to use Novell NDS, Novell Directory Services, and it was terrible for me because they had, I didn't like it. They use own data types, and it was really hard, to perform a simple lookup. But if I use it via JNDI, I had to learn just the API. It could hide a lot of things. So, and then came J2E, and for me it was like, this is perfect because I learned the thing. And then I don't care about the applications of us developers. So for me, it was like, how to call it, a vacation extension program, right? So I had more free time because I didn't have to learn all the vendor-specific things, which for me were bad because there's no added value. And everyone did the same, a little bit slightly different. And with J2E, I could learn at once the 80% and become successful. So,
Exactly.
Yeah. But this is interesting because lots of developers don't see this way. They say, okay, J2E is like complex or whatever, and I have to learn the things. And my opinion was always, you will have to learn the thing anyway. You have to know what transaction is and what remoting is. You have to know it. But J2E is like abstraction. You don't have to know all the product-specific stuff. And right now, I'm also apply the same thing for front end. I don't like to learn the specific JavaScript frameworks. I just focus on the standards, what the browser provides. And I really like the approach because I don't have to relearn every 3 months, a new framework. I can just, just focus on standards. So funny enough, for me, standards mean more productivity. And I don't know whether maybe there's some theory. The interesting part is like self-constraining myself, right? So if I get the J2E APIs, I know what I have, and the solution space is limited because it only comprises the specs which are shipping with J2E. If J2E would be not there, maybe it would be a little bit more confusing for me because I had to perform research before every project and know what is the most interesting or the best technology to solve the problem. But if you just have microprofile, let's say, or Jakarta E, you know you were successful before with the thing, and you can move fast. And fast means, if we, after a few days, we have a proof of concept, is good enough. Whether it would be 1 hour less, but you will have to learn 2 days more, it would be as successful. And the funny thing is that the clients also like that, because there were stories like 10 years ago, they hired me, and now the application is still running, and we can modernize the application without changing a lot. This is a huge deal. And so this is like complete different point of view as a consultant to the entire thing. And I didn't care about the standards a lot because this was another thing about my clients, actually. So they decided which licenses to choose or which vendors to choose. And I always told them, pick whatever you like. I would like just to program the thing against the API, and I was happy. So I could reduce, the amount of meetings, but it was the political meetings, which product to choose. Should we go, with Red Hat? And I said, okay, if you have already Red Hat operating system, pick JBoss. If you have an IBM shop, pick OpenLiberty. But if you're a Sun shop, just pick Payara. And the Tommy was very successful on host systems, AS400, because I don't know why, on most of such systems, Tomcat was already available. So in some projects, they ask me, what to choose, and say, what do you have? Tomcat? Yes, Tomcat is already running. So we just, use the Tommy War, deployed on the Tomcat, and we had Tommy. So it was in a few projects. So the cool story is I don't have, to justify myself. I say, okay, pick whatever server you have, and we can, write the code against the API.
Yeah, and like the people who actually knows the nitty-gritty details of the application server, that's only beneficial if you're working on the product or if you're a team dedicated to that as a consultant or as a company who needs to make a decision. Having something that can move fast, that's interoperable, you don't like, maybe the company decide they don't want this vendor anymore or they want to consolidate vendors. They can then move to a different application server and have little configuration changes or, updates and not have to rewrite everything from this ground floor up.
Yeah.
So that's why I think choices is important when it comes to decisions.
Yeah. And do you know a theory where self-constraining increases the productivity? Is there something
tell me about it.
No, I don't know. This was just my observation. So if if the solution space is limited, you don't have to think about all possible solutions. You only see, what you have, and you have to start to work with it, and then you become more productive. So I thought, you as neuroscientist, you will say me, okay, this was in the book from 1958 and written by Alexander the Small.
I went to school a long time ago.
Yeah. Okay, so you spend some time at Tommy Tribe, and then, you say, I don't like David anymore. Let's start with Satya Nadella, right? So this is the...
Well, that is not true. I never said that. But no, I was looking for, what else can I do? And at that time, I saw Microsoft at Java 1. I'm like, they look kind of lost. What are they doing here?
Yeah. You saw the T-shirts back then. Microsoft loves Linux, right? This is how they started at Java 1, which is a bold. And I said, this is a great. I mean, they're a little bit crazy that they that they show up with the stickers, yeah. But because this was like the very first time Microsoft was among Java developers, and I met, I think the name of the guy was Brian Benz. Could it be Benz? Mr.
Benz, yes.
Yes, he was a really nice and told me, yeah, we do Java. It's like, what's going on here? And everyone was nice, and I said, okay, what is it? Is it a fake Microsoft or what are they doing here? Actually, right?
Yeah, somebody sold the T-shirts and logos. Yeah. Which I think everybody had the same reaction. Like, this is really weird. Why does Microsoft love Linux? Microsoft's at a Java conference?
Yeah.
So, I thought that was kind of strange. And then they had a sloth as their icon for the Linux and Java thing. I'm like, oh, that is bad. Sloth moves so slow, and you're basically telling the world we're late to the game.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know who's doing your branding, but that's not the right way to go.
Okay.
So what I realized is there's, Microsoft is serious once you get into the game. Don't have any credibility, footprint, or history behind Java. Who's going to, trust Microsoft when it comes to Java? So I joined Microsoft to help change that storyline.
And when you joined
that's
Microsoft?
What brought me here.
When you joined Microsoft, when was it? Which year?
I joined early 2018.
Okay.
I was at that time, the Brian Benz was there, and other people within the company, not anybody that I recognized from the community. And then at that time, Bruno Borges and I joined. Bruno joined on the DevRel team. I joined on the product marketing team.
Okay.
And then now we both switched. We're both program managers. He's on the developer side of things for Java, and I'm on the Azure product team, working with Java.
Yeah, Bruno likes YAML. It's
Linux.
A little bit strange. He loves YAML, but otherwise he's a nice guy. Just joking.
You've been reading his tweets lately, huh?
No, Bruno is I know Bruno for forever. Actually, we met lots of Java once, and before he joined Microsoft. So nice guy. And interesting. So and now you are the Azure Java girl, right? Can we?
I'm the Azure Java person here on the product team. So I partner closely with Red Hat, so working around enabling JBoss EAPs to run in Azure on different. And Azure is a big cloud platform, so we cover anywhere from IaaS, which are the VMs, all the way to a PaaS service, and also the AKS product, OpenShift. I'm sorry, our Microsoft's AKS is OpenShift, Azure Kubernetes Service, and then Red Hat is the
you have both.
OpenShift itself.
Yeah, both.
And then we have the Azure Red Hat OpenShift product,
exactly,
which is a collaborative product. Yeah, it's a mouthful.
So what's the bridge, for instance, between Azure and Java is really interesting. For instance, what you also have is called Azure Functions, and the Azure Function things. So looks like a command pattern in Java, but what you can do is, by the way, the tooling. So you get an official Maven archetype from Microsoft, which is already interesting, right? Which deploys the Azure Functions to the Azure cloud. But what I actually did recently is I deployed a JAX-OS resource, which is REST endpoint. It looks like application server, but it's actually Azure Function running on Java 11 in the Azure cloud. And you could, for instance, even ship entire Quarkus as a Azure function, and then it will look like Quarkus or Tommy or Payara. It doesn't matter, but it gets executed and then goes to sleep. So it's basically stateless. So you have to be a little bit careful with the scopes, but with request scopes it works, and pay as you go. So you get several invocations for free, and then you pay as you use. So this is now the whole circle. So we talked about the standards. So what you could do, and we did it in some cases, you can actually take an old Java E J2E application, and you would like to push it as quickly as possible to the cloud. If the application was built reasonably, you could you can deploy a fat Azure function. So it is a bigger function, doesn't matter. And it would already run in the cloud, right? After a few modifications. So you have a little bit careful with singletons, all that stuff, but in principle, it works in some cases. So this is actually interesting story, and also the interesting tooling, right? With the Maven archetype, that it creates, the entire environment for you, and or not. You can provision with Terraform first, and override it with or use it with the archetype. And also, container instances, Azure, ACI, Azure Container Instances, I think is the name. Also very convenient
ACI.
way. Yeah, ACI. Also very convenient way to run larger applications as regular containers. So so everything is already done. So what you are doing there, I mean, this is already works and works fine.
Well, no. Well, we also have a service called Azure App Service.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of a PaaS type service, and enabling JBoss to run on there as a pay-as-you-go image.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, you have to run. You can spin up the JBoss instance and dump all your application in there. You don't have to worry about getting licensing from Red Hat. You don't have to worry about standing up your own application server. Everything's already done for you. And we're going to be implementing things like transaction and clustering later on down the line. I can't give any timeline yet, but things like that. So when we have customers who are running mixed, .NET and Java, they can now start bringing their applications onto Azure that way. Mm-hmm. And by working along with customers, understanding their requirements. Because it's not just the software layer, it goes down to if you're running on IaaS, what hardware layer, what kind of scalability, what kind of chipset that you want to optimize your OS on, and then your workload. So there's different layers you have to work through. The Java stuff looked like it's done, but it's not. There's so much more work we can do, and we're continuing working with our customers to get that done.
Yeah, of course. I was just joking because I think I tried that in December last year, and it only supported Java 8 Azure Functions, and now it's already Java 11. So now it proves very fast. Do you actually know Mr. Ashish? I think it's pronounced Chabria. This is he is working as product manager of Jakarta JMS on Microsoft Azure. So I had on the podcast, and this was also a funky conversation because what they have on Azure, you have on Azure, Microsoft Azure, is the JMS completes JMS specification. The old messaging service is implemented in Azure. So I was really surprised, and I said, yeah, we do it, and it works really nice. And what was Azure Service Bus is called?
Service, yeah. So Microsoft is such a big product, and we have the developer division, and then we also have the Azure team. And within Azure, you got different layers of products and services, hardware, software. So I meet new people every single day here.
Okay.
And yeah. So I don't know who this person is, but I'm not surprised it's done.
My pronunciation was terrible. Not even I know what. I had a conversation with him. Ashish is his first name, and the last name is Chabria. This is the. If you would like to learn about something about Azure people, this is the episode number 111 of AirHacks FM. So, nice. You said JBoss and pay as you go. What it means? Is it like JBoss is serverless, so you pay per invocation, or what it means as you go, or you pay?
Oh, so JBoss has traditionally been more of like an annual subscription you pay for.
Okay.
And based on the number of cores that you use, but with a pay as you go, so instead of prepaying for 1,000 cores, and you may not use all 1,000 cores, you can go to Microsoft and one day you're running 1,000 VM, the next day you're running 5 VMs. You only pay for what you use. So it's a metered way of financially it makes sense. It's convenient, and you don't have to in terms of ROI for whoever's cutting the check. That you're only paying for what you use, and you're not prepaying and leaving it idle.
What you should also do, support WildFly. Then it would be completely free, and the customers could bring their own license. No kidding. So you could say, if you like, use WildFly, because if you don't do this, what I did in a project, I ran WildFly inside ACI. I can absolutely do this, right?
Yeah. So there's two concepts here. One is BYOS and one is pay-as-you-go. The reason why we have BYOS and BYOS is bring your own subscription, and pay-as-you-go is because of the integrated support component. If you do WildFly, you don't have that commercial support that goes with it. You can certainly run it on any Azure services, but you're on the hook for your own support.
Yes. So, but could you run it as conveniently as JBoss on Azure App Service? Or is it a secret source between JBoss and Azure App Service?
You can run it. Well, we did have a version of it because it doesn't have the commercial support.
Yeah.
We couldn't meet our customers' expectation of fully supporting it from the application, the infrastructure all the way up to the application server.
Sure.
That's why we selected the JBoss instead. So that way we can work directly with Red Hat. If there's any issues when it comes to the application server, we work with Red Hat to resolve it for the customer. We don't have that with WildFly.
No, sure. But I mean, lots of projects are using WildFly, and then sometimes my clients decide, now we need support, and they go to JBoss. So I would say this would be a business opportunity for Azure. Say, okay, we can also provide Azure App Service for WildFly, so it is no support regarding the infrastructure. It's like shared responsibility model, to say, okay, the runtime is it's not no more supported by Azure. It's just, the hardware virtualization layers and everything below. And then if you like, you can bring your own subscription, and then you switch to JBoss to all the versions, actually. Yeah.
So I actually did some work with WildFly on the Azure virtual machines and virtual machine scale set. So you can use WildFly. If there's a quick start for it, I launched it sometime last year.
Oh, cool. Uh-huh.
And you can test, play around. You don't have to worry about the licensing and anything. And you want commercial support, then you can do the JBoss on the virtual machines and scale set. And then you can pick up the support that way. And right now it's only available as bring your own subscription. And then, we want to take the next step further, and you want to have it more of a platform as a service type experience. Then you would go into app service and run JBoss there as pay as you go.
Yeah, but app service won't support WildFly, right? So you don't...
Currently, no.
But this is one hint. It would be great if it could, right? So this is like what I can tell you. There will be lots of clients or customers who will be interested in it. And even for such you have huge companies, and you need some environments for development. So you could use a lot of environments with WildFly and run the supported one in production, for instance, right? So it is just easier. And I mean, the other clouds are do similar things, right? So you can, for instance, AWS, they offer Aurora, which is Postgres compatible, or you can get, the real thing, RDS, which is Postgres, and you can, run Oracle and bring your own license, or just pay Amazon to run Oracle. So I'm just saying that, having an completely, not completely open source, an unsupported version of JBoss would be actually a great idea. It's the same for Quarkus. So some of my clients buy support for Quarkus, but lots of clients just would like to start with the open source thing, and then they decide whether they need support or not.
Yeah, I definitely bring that feedback to the app service team there. I think there are some also programs that we offer to our customers to run it for free, kind of like a trial period. That's one way of addressing some of that. I want to try it out and test it before I buy the solution.
Yeah, but if developers, I mean, clouds are different, right? A cloud, I would like just to fire up the CLI and just run it. And then, but if there is too much friction with the licensing, I wouldn't be interested. So before I would evaluate, let's say, app service with JBoss, I like JBoss, if you know. I like Red Hat, and I have very good relation to Red Hat. But for me personally, it would be very interesting to know, also for my clients, whether it is possible to run the same thing on WildFly and Azure App Service. If this is not possible, I wouldn't be interested in JBoss on App Service, because this is too much dependence on licensing and all the thing model. Because for my clients, it's always, they have the option whether they have no time and money, lots of time and no money. Because if they have no time and money, they buy support. And for some clients, they would just like to support by patching the server by themselves. Perfectly okay. So you cannot force the developers.
So that's the problem with if you want to have the app service manage the instances for you. The users don't have access to the instance to do the patching. That's why we need the integrated support.
Yeah, but you could, they don't. I mean, patching, developers don't patch. As the patching of WildFly is exception from the rule. I would say no kidding, I would say in one project out of 100, maybe someone patches the application server. This is not very common practice. What would be enough to be able to choose the version? You see, oh, this version doesn't work, so I use the next one. And if this doesn't work, then go into JBoss. This would be the motivation to start with the supported product, I would say.
Okay, this is valuable feedback. Let me take it back to the team and see what we can do.
Yeah, and the same would be with Quarkus, right? So if your Quarkus is also hugely successful, and you could do the same thing with Quarkus. So you see, you say managed. So what it means is you can just push a war or an ear, and it just installs and starts. So it's almost like serverless JBoss, right?
Yeah. Function is actually a part of the app service team. So drop the ear war file in there. It just runs. If you want to go scale it out, you use CLI or in the Azure portal. You have different options there. You can scale to horizontally or vertically. You can set limits. You can just drag the scale out if you want. Mm-hmm. So everything is kind of like done in the back end for the customer. So you don't have to worry about, if customers have like a Black Friday event coming up, they can set the limit and don't really have to worry about all the failure, or something crashing. And then we also have app service is built on resiliency in mind. There's, different regions, different HA mechanism. There's different disaster recovery. So things like that. It's all built in the back end, kind of keep the customers from having to worry about that. And then there's also app service has two types. One is multi-tenant and one is a single dedicated tenant. Mm-hmm. ACE v3 or Azure App Service environment version 3 that provides some isolations for customer who wants a little more controlled security and single tenancy for their application. So there's App Service is a very well thought out, in-depth product that Azure offers to our customers, and it's more for it gives the developers time back so they can do what they want to do, and Microsoft take care of all the headache. And we partner with Red Hat, so if there's anything that comes down to the Java application server, then we can work with them to get things fixed.
Yeah, and by the way, the Microsoft and Red Hat relationship is also great because if you happen to run Visual Studio Code, most of the plugins, Java plugins, are collaboration between Microsoft and Red Hat. I already also had chat with Red Hat and say, okay, the testing in Java stuff, this is what Microsoft is contributing, which is great, actually, right? So,
actually, I was talking to, I just had a call this morning. We're going to announce next month the Red Hat Java server language for VS Code extension. So that's going live next month, and we're continuing to invest and collaborate with Red Hat to get all the toolings in there, all the support needed for Java developers.
Yeah, I use actually Visual Studio Code most of my time right now because I do some JavaScript
that's
work.
Awesome.
And in backend, I was too lazy to switch to Java IDE. I just kept using Visual Studio Code, and it mostly works. So I use Visual Studio Code with actually the Microsoft plugins all the time. And what's also funny, I don't know whether you're aware of Payara Cloud. Payara server? Payara?
I know Payara, but I didn't know they have a Payara Cloud now.
Yeah, what they did. This is Payara Cloud is a Kubernetes orchestrator. So they have an application server, and the application server, there's the Payara admin server, and starts and stops Payara micros, which are pods and running in Kubernetes. And this Kubernetes happens to be AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service right now. And you told me right now with the Azure App Service, this happens this the second time. For me, the vision of application servers was I focus on business logic, create a war on ear, then copy it somewhere, and it just runs. And now we have it twice on Azure. Payara Cloud does it with Payara, and you did it with WildFly. And this is why I also know I don't care about the server. I don't care. I don't want to fiddle with all the installation. I don't care. And even if you watch my presentations, I think even in the J4K last time, what I usually do, I unzip the server, started, and I forget about that. So and just push all the time the wars. And you achieved that with Azure App Service. And the funny stuff is the servers became serverless. Because you say, they scale. So I mean, of course. I mean, if there is your application doesn't know about that. So you're just starting, more instances transparently, and the load is distributed among instances. And but I don't care as a developer. I don't have to implement that. And this is really great for productivity and portability. Because if I can just pick the application on premise, but then I will have to create the cluster by my own, which is not trivial in JBoss case. So you have, to play with InfiniSpan and create the caches and whatever. And you are just doing for me, which is great. But it happened twice. Payara Cloud on AKS on Azure right now. I had also podcast with them. And now you did it with Azure App Service with WildFly. JBoss, and soon WildFly. This will be the next announcement, I hope. Great.
Yeah, well, we also have it for the Azure Virtual Machine scale set, sometimes referred to as a VMSS. So there's a marketplace offer image. If you still want some control over your application and want to do just straight VMs, you can deploy that. It installs the JBoss instance for you, clustering. Everything's already done, even down to the OS. And you just drop your ear files in there and have that configured.
Yeah, I had already chatted with Bruno about that, also on the podcast, and not about that, about Azure Container Instances. And I was a little bit sad that only one instance is supported. So you cannot just have two instances, for scalability. So why? You could just start at a second one, just two, and put a load balancer up front, and this would be just enough for 80% of the projects. And Bruno told me, no, just one. So, okay, it's set. But now it is set with the scale sets. It sounds like, this is the solution to the problem I had back then.
Yeah, the virtual machine scale set. So if you go to the Azure Marketplace, just type in JBoss on JBoss, Red Hat, and it'll come up. You can run JBoss as a standalone or as a clustered in virtual machine scale set.
Okay, so now let's focus on the important stuff. So your Twitter handle is Rock Climber T. I suppose T is for Theresa, right? So
yes.
Are you a free climber?
I am. I've been climbing since 2000. It's my passion and my lifestyle.
Very good. What you did before? No climbing.
I went to college. For those who can't see my video, that's my rock climbing hat, and that's my tri-cam and my cam for climbing.
I wondered, because the head looks like an egg. It's like, what is this? The other one was like a weapon. It looks like, an iron butterfly. And the other things, I say, okay, this is hard to tell. So, this is on the left side. I would know what it is. How good are you with climbing? So, is this like different levels or what? I mean,
there's different types of climbing. So, I go outdoors and I climb crack climbing, what we call traditional climbing. So, as you follow up a crack system, you bring those hardwares hanging on the wall there, and you place them in. You put your carabiner and you clip your rope in, and you go up. And that's how, in case you do fall, you fall twice that distance down instead of hitting a deck.
How often happen to you?
I love to do.
How often you are falling per week or per month, or I don't know?
I have never fallen trad climbing, but I've fallen plenty bouldering. So bouldering is where you only have your shoes and you climb, and it's more muscle and intense. Traditional climbing, because you have to set up your gear and everything and protection pieces, you have to be more methodical and careful. And especially when you go out there and you set up your anchor point, you got to make sure you distribute the load properly, because, if you're in a sketchy area, you have to understand, you have to weigh your risk. It's very cerebral than it is more muscular. Bouldering, on the other hand, where it's more muscle and technique than it is thinking. So it's a different type of climbing.
But and
I love it. I encourage them to try. Yes.
Okay, but the free climbing stuff with the falling, but secure falling. So you never felt secure.
I've never. So there's two types of. There's sports climbing and traditional climbing.
Okay.
So it's traditional climbing. You place your gear along the crack system, and you belayer clean it.
Yeah, and traditional climbing you never felt.
Never felt. Yes, I'm too scared to fall in that one.
Okay.
I fall in sports climbing.
You have to, right? In sports climbing, because like a competition. So in one point of time, you have to fall.
No. It's more sports climbing is somebody already went up on the route. They already put the bolts and the hanger in there, so you clip it in there. When you do that, it's the hardware's already there. It's secure, but you're subjective to the previous climber, whoever set the route. And if it's a tall guy who stood on a nice perch and put their clip, 5 feet away, I'm too short to reach that. So I have to stand on little crystals or whatever intermediary things and try to clip in. So it gets a little scary. crack climbing, you're following the crack system, so it gives you a little more flexibility and choice in terms of where you want to make your stance before you start placing your gear.
A little bit meditation during climbing, right? You have lots of time, so you're alone. So I think
it's very meditative, absolutely. And what I love about it is the focus and concentration. Nothing in the world matters to you. You're so focused on that, and it brings a sense of clarity and peace to your mind.
Yeah,
that's why I climb.
This is what I suspected. So, and okay, so you could also program, but climbing is also okay.
Yeah,
I think climbing is more healthy than programming. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, so you're outdoor, you're with nature instead of being in your basement with 10 cups of coffee around you. And
but I have a nice wallpaper with Big Sur. It's a nice mountain, very very nice. Just kidding.
Yes.
Yeah, J4K. So we met at J4K. They're organizing already, right? Is it the hot phase of the Java for Kubernetes conference? And you are one of the organizers, right?
Yes, I am one of the organizer, founding member, board of directors, however you want to classify it. It is Java for Kubernetes, and we started as originally a in-person conference because of COVID. We made it virtual, and this year we decided to split it into 2 virtual events just because there's a lot of virtual events going on. But what we want to do is introduce a conference or a place for people to network to learn about Java and Kubernetes, but not get lost in the focus, the Java only focused conference or the Kubernetes only focused conference. This is to bring together that hybrid type of knowledge, so that intersection, and also talk about how do you bring Java into the cloud. So that's why we have J4K.
Perfect. So thank you. It was really interesting. I didn't suspect, the neuroscience part, which is even more interesting for me. So it was great.
Well, I'm glad you find it interesting. Most people, when I tell them, I'm a human development major, they just look at me weird, like, what is that?
Yeah, human development major, I would say this sounds boring. But neuroscience, this sounds interesting. So it's always, this is marketing skills. You have to sell it. Very good. Where people can find you? So at Rock Climber T, this is what I learned at Twitter, right?
Yes, Twitter. You can also find me at J4K. You find me at Microsoft. In LinkedIn, of course. Just Google or look for Teresa Nguyen at Microsoft or Java, and I should show up.
Exactly. So thank you, and I would like to invite you back, or you just ping me if something interesting in Asia and Java space happens. I would really like to invite you back and have a chat about what happens in the Azure cloud.
Sure. Same thing with you. If you find an interesting topic, I can definitely get you hooked up to the right people, and you can get a deep dive into what's going on there.
So thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much, Adam. Bye.